Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you for another episode, I guess we'd call it. But it's part of our series of interviewing judges and asking them what they are looking for in images and videos and how they perceive art and what their creative process is. And I'm so excited to be sitting down today with Jerusha Sutton. Jerusha is a filmmaker and a doula here in Sydney. Yeah, Northern Rivers of New South Wales. And I'm stoked to be chatting about creativity and pushing the narrative of what birth photography is. And so, Jerusha, I'm so excited to be here with you. How are you?
So nice to hang out. I'm really well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so pumped up because we were just chatting off camera before and I was like tempted to just hit record and figure it out later, like an intro. But there's so much that is happening, I think, in the birth space post COVID and how people are viewing birth and taking charge of their births. And I know us as birth photographers and videographers, our job is to kind of tell that story. And I think with video, it kind of gives us a leg up. Like we can tell that story so much more creatively and differently in video. And so I would really love to kind of break down what your creative process is when you're going in and shooting a client birth. And we'll get to this in a second, but even your creative process when doing a much larger project like birth time and breaking that down, because I feel like some people really want to get into birth videography, but the idea of how do I end up with this, and they have this like beautiful polished video in their head. How do I go from nothing to this? So what does that process look like for you?
Well, I'm not much of a planner. I'm not a massive planner. I definitely I arrive at projects with an open heart and I intuitively feel my way through them. Not being a planner doesn't always work brilliantly for me, I'll say, but this is how my brain works. So I I guess ultimately it's a sense of presence for me in the space of experience. So remaining open to what may be. And maybe that's also from years of attending births and knowing how unpredictable births can be. There have been projects over time where I have imagined what they will be and been so excited about them. And of course, they don't unfold that way, especially the ones that I've really, hoped will turn out in a certain way. They often don't. And so I've learned to remain super open and um, and so the filming is just the first part, and then it's sitting down and trying to blow open the gates and the expectations of what the editing process is like and where that will be, and that is super intuitive for me as well. I often sit and procrastinate for a really long time. The music of something or the audio of something, or there is always an element that I feel leads me. And once I land that, I always know if I'm not quite right on the right track because it feels like hard work for me. And
Mhm.
then once that whatever that key is unlocked, the creative flow state for me just kind of lands and it happens, and then it happens quite quickly. But it can be really painful in that initial phase of trying to work out what angle you're coming from, what elements you're going to pull in, whatever that is. But yeah, that's how it comes through me, is that once it lands, it just goes.
Yeah, I think it's really important that this is such a good point too, because we can have an idea of what we think it should look like. Letting that go is so tricky when you have those expectations. And so I know there's been many times where I've had an idea of what, like, I think the post-processing editing should look like, or the color grade should look like. And then it ends up being completely different. And it's great. The film is great. There's nothing wrong with it. But I've like sabotaged myself into thinking that it's shite because it's not what I had envisioned, instead of letting that go and going, you know what? Actually, this led me somewhere. This story led me somewhere else, and sitting and being okay with that.
And it's okay to have an idea in the first place. You know, that's where we start. We've got to, and sometimes that idea is what you end up rallying against. That's what you end up bouncing off to go in completely the opposite direction. So you've got to start somewhere. So it's not a bad idea to have a vision or a hope or a projection of what something will end up being like. It's the flexibility and the openness to know when that's not what it's going to be. That's the magic.
Yeah. So what inspires you about watching film? Like, and it doesn't have to be just birth films, but it can be any films, or TV series or whatever. We were talking about this earlier. I'm very nerdy. So I see things on TV and I'm like, oh, that lighting, I wonder what? And I completely lose focus of the storyline. My husband hates watching TV with me. What inspires you about film, and then pulling that into your own films?
I do absolutely the same, Lacey. We were watching something last night, and it was this big pivotal scene, and then there was this shot of a man who's quite powerful, but it was him, and this scene was about him, everything falling apart, and it was just shot from, he was sitting on the end of a bed, and it was shot down on him, and suddenly he looked like this little boy on the end of a bed, and I was like, oh my, like the shot told so much more than the story ever could. And I guess for people who don't have the eye or the knowledge of how that is created, that just paints the story for them in a way that they don't see it, and they don't pull that apart and go, oh, they've lifted the camera and shot down on him, and that is where the magic is. And so I'm forever doing that as well. And that's what I love, is when the creativity of the lighting and the angles and all of those things come together to enhance the story in a way that the general viewer is not going to notice. And so I'm seeing that stuff all the time. And sometimes with birth, you have time to bring those elements in. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you are under the pump and you're like, I just got to get this, because I've got, you arrive and you've got 10 minutes before a baby comes, and you've just got to get as much as you can get, and you don't have time to be pulling in chairs and getting at different heights or doing the things. This is why we can't preempt these things always, right? We've got to be in the moment and go, okay, do I have time here? Do I have space to explore, to play, to think about what kind of impact these angles and this lighting and these choices have on this story?
Yeah. My last birth that I went to, it's so funny. This was her second birth that I attended with her. And I walked in as she was birthing her first baby, like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And she was like, I'll call you earlier this time. That was my first baby. I just wasn't really sure if I was really in labor. I'll make sure to call you earlier this time. And I was like, yeah, cool. And when I got there, she was literally crowning again. The dad came outside and was like, hey, this is the house. Come quick. She's crowning. I have to go. And I was like, wait, why are you outside? And I legit walked in to her crowning and turned on my camera, and immediately there was a card error. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And, pulled out the second camera, and then the second camera was working fine, but the settings didn't say, like, I must have been doing something strange, not birthy related, because like the shutter speed was not set for video or anything. So that would have taken a lot of time. So I literally pulled out my phone and like just shot the crowning part on my phone, and then incorporated that in some fun, creative way, because I missed labor. I missed everything.
this is it, right? Though you've got to think on the fly, and anything can happen, and you make it work however you can.
It was really cool though, because I had her send me footage of her when she was pregnant, just photos and videos, and then kind of created this like time warp lapse thing that kind of like speed ramped into that. Like it was really fun. And that, you know, like the footage doesn't have to be perfect. I would love for it to be perfect, but there's so many cool, fun, creative ways that you can tell that story that no one would ever know that that footage was shot on an iPhone, and that my card errored on the first one, and that the second one also failed. And you do what you have to do to get the shot.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. So I'd love to chat a little bit more about birth time as well. I think birth time was something, actually, you tell us about it.
For those who don't know, Birth Time's a documentary, a feature-length documentary that I made with 3 other women. It was released in 2021. It was a 5-year process to make it. And it's basically a film about Australia's maternity system. So we interviewed, we followed women on their stories through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. We followed their stories. We interviewed a vast array of experts, academics, birth workers, both Australian and international. And it was this incredible 5-year process. So it was with Jo Hunter, who's a privately practicing midwife, also one of my best friends and my midwife for my 2 home births. Zoe Naylor, who is a producer and actress, and Selena Scoble, who is an Olympian, who sort of came on later and managed our back end for us. She was sort of our anchor in the back. And so Zoe, Jo, and I made the film, and it was kind of an incredible process. It was definitely inspired by the business of being born. Jo, 15 years ago, had hosted the Australian premiere of the business of being born. Ricky and Abby came out for it. But she said everyone was saying, oh, it's a great film, but it's very American, and that really doesn't apply to us. And Jo was like, well, actually, it really
does.
You know?
The concepts are the same.
Yeah. And so she had long had the thought of it'd be great to have an Australian documentary to really speak to our people. And then her and I sort of started musing over that. And then we both supported Zoe for the home birth of her second baby. And it just was this magic kind of coming together that was the trio of us that we spoke to her about it. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. She felt completely transformed after her second birth, having had the care that she had. And so we just started. And at that stage, you know, I'd only just started filming births. I had a couple of 5D Mark IIIs, and I was like, they do video. I guess we can, you know, let's just give it a crack. And we bought some sound gear, we bought some lighting, and we just went, let's interview some people. And that's where we started. And as with a lot of projects that need to be made, it just led us. It just led us along the way. So we never planned the next step. It came to us. We planned, you know, it'd be like one step at a time. What interview are we doing next? Who are we going to follow now? What birth are we going to shoot? And so we spent a couple of years filming. And between us all having our own business, having babies, I was 35 weeks pregnant with my first baby when we started filming. Zoe had a 4-month-old. Jo had a full case of private, you know, of home birth clients. So we just would fit it in wherever we can. We traveled the country, and we just made this film. And we got to a point where we had something like 80 or 100 hours of footage, and we went, we've got to do something with this. We need to create it into something. And it was decided that I would take on the editing role with alongside my friend Ryan Harrison, who had shot some of the location stuff for us. So Ryan and I locked ourselves in his bachelor pad for 5 months and did our best to edit this thing. And this goes back to the process, you know, this on a much grander scale we had all of this footage. We had so many stories. We had so many angles. And we sat and went, how do we create a feature-length film out of 80 hours of footage? We could have made 10 different films of different angles. But so we just sat and we wrote out, a timeline of the script, and we storyboarded and we started along that track, and then it just got a bit sticky. And then we went back and went, oh no, this, we had several iterations of thinking this is it. And we just gently unpicked it, and it just flowed. And we ended up with, I think, an hour 45 edit, which I thought, this is it. We've really got it. And then we brought the others back on board, and we sat and culled it and recrafted it, and ended up with a 84-minute version of this film. It was an extraordinary process, and we had an amazing post-production studio with Spectrum Films, which was an incredible experience for me, because I then sat in on all of the editing, all the sound editing. We had an amazing sound editor. We had an incredible color grader. We employed a musician to create a complete score, and we employed an animator to create the animations for it. And I oversaw all of those processes, all of the creative processes, while Zoe was doing all of the producing and all of the all of that sort of structure of things. And so it was such an amazing process for me to sit in with these geniuses and oversee and really, tune into my creative intuition of what I knew or what I felt this project needed to be. Anyway, it was released in 2021. It got delayed by COVID, of course. The beauty of that was that we submitted it to many, many film festivals around the world, and we got something like 24 international film festival awards. And then it got released in Australia and then internationally, and it's its own beautiful beast.
Yeah, it's so amazing because there's a couple of things that I want to touch on here. But the first thing is, I think having the nonchalantness, I don't know if that's what I would call it, but the nonchalantness to just say, you know what, let's do this thing. Because like we were talking about earlier, we have this finished project idea. And when you have a concept, it's not as big and scary, I don't think. I've had a concept in my head for a documentary that I want to shoot. It's probably since like 2019. And I'm stuck on the idea of like, how do you do it? And
we make it together.
Huh?
Can we make it together?
Yes, we can. And like it's so cool because we have this platform, right? Like birth is, I think we can all agree that birth is an advocacy role. Doula work, even birth photography. I stand by that. Absolutely. Birth photography is advocacy. And filmography, that is a word, but filming is advocacy in some form or fashion. And so we all have this platform, whether we have 5 people following it, 5,000 or 5 million. And the impact that we can have by taking our skills from telling individual birth stories to something much larger, which it doesn't have to be larger. In the end, it will be larger, but we can start off with really small chunks, right? And then it turns into this monstrous beast that has won 21 awards or 24 awards. I can't remember what you said, but yeah. And I always get so inspired around this time of year because it's award season. It's not just Birth Photographer and Birth Videographer of the awards of the year, but it's also the Icon Awards and New Zealand and Iris Awards and APP, the Australian Photographic Prize Awards. So the end of the year is when all the awards are happening. And I start watching all of the live streaming or the judging, and I'm like, oh, I never would have thought to do that. How can I take that portrait photo and incorporate that into birth? How can I take that cinematic lighting in, I don't know, Top Gun and incorporate it into birth? And it inspires me to create things that I probably never would have thought to create. And so I always get so inspired when I see people who are doing their own thing, like Ricky, like you, and so many other people who are like, they have their job, they're doing their thing, and then they get so inspired that they have to create this thing. And it comes from having the audacity to like explore. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it was fun. Like I still got something out of it, right?
Yeah.
I forget where I was going with that, but
But I think you're absolutely right on the advocacy thing. I mean, that has always been such a major part of my inspiration. And I came into birth photography and videography as I was a doula first for years. And, and this was back, I mean, I became a doula 18 years ago. Back then, images of birth were not around. And I remember having a little point and shoot in my bag at the first birth I was at, and I was like, it's so clear to me. There was this beautiful, heavily tattooed young couple having their first baby on a mat in the hospital, just, holding each other and just riding through these contractions. And I was like, how does no one talk about how beautiful this is?
mm-hmm.
Like, how? The image of that birth is so imprinted on my brain as this exquisite beauty of this couple working together. And it was then a few years later when I started to see, birth photography coming, social media wasn't such a thing, wasn't whatever, all of that. And it just started to come. I was like, here we go. This way we see it, and we can start to educate people and change their view of what birth is from what we've been seeing in the films of the woman in the blue gown with her legs in stirrups screaming at her husband and the doctor rescuing her. All of those things, we can just start to retrain that. And so that's why I got into photography. And then this film was literally just a grander scale of that, of trying to, show women that they are capable and that birth can be beautiful and enjoyable, or it can be powerful, and they are so much more capable than they think. And then for other people to have the reverence and the respect for birth, that's always the inspiration for me, is just to elevate it to the level of respect that it needs and requires and deserves. And so whatever we can do, we are in such a powerful position to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the creative process of just kind of letting it flow, I've always, for some reason, imagined that I had to. This might be a neurodivergent thing. I'm convinced that I've diluted my children's gene pool. It's my fault. But like just having this really straightforward concept of like, okay, here's the script, here's my shots, here's what I need to get, here's my checklist. And so it's so refreshing to hear that it's possible to create an amazing film with just going in and taking shots and interviews and then going in and putting the story together in post. Did you find when you got to the end of the film that you were missing anything and needed to go in and shoot anything, like fill any holes? Because I've done that with local birth stories.
Yeah, right. We, well, I guess right near the end, we did tack in a few extra interviews because we just wanted such vast representation. That was incredibly important to us.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted, and I mean, I guess the beauty of the stories was that we didn't, because we asked several women who, if we could follow their stories, we didn't know what their births were going to be like. So it's not like we curated what their stories were. And that was the beauty of it as well, is that we couldn't go, this person's had a beautiful birth, that person's had a beautiful. It wasn't about that. It was about what their journey was. And so all of that just evolved. And then at the end, we did tack on a few extra interviews just to fill out places where we felt we were lacking. But in the end, and then we did, we'd been to, so there's a whole section in the film on birthing on country, so with the Indigenous women. And we filmed a lot in Alice Springs and in Nowra down at Waminda. And so we made a couple of trips. We did a last minute trip, I remember, down to Nowra to get some more location shots down there. And, you know, things like that were great when the film came out because it went to such an international audience. And it's almost like there's a real Australian, you know, landscape feel in it as well. It's not all just, you know, inside and births and things. There's beautiful imagery in Alice Springs, and there's beautiful imagery down on the south coast. And so things like that we just fed in to just, you know, once the story was sort of created, once we had a storyboard of it then those elements then just filled in those gaps. So yeah, it's just an ongoing process of looking at what do we got, what do we need, what do we got, what do we need, reassess, let's keep going.
Yeah. Thank you for that inspiration. That was a me question. But I also, you know, you're judging this year, which I'm super excited about, to have you coming in and looking at, you know, collectively as birth videographers, our body of work. And, you know, the purpose of Birth Videographer of the Year is to kind of push those boundaries of how we view birth and videography and how we can capture those stories. And I talk all the time about trying weird, crazy things. And so, like, even in imagery as well, I tell people, like, crop it weird. It doesn't have to be 4:6 or 8:10, you know, like, do weird things, crunch your blacks. If it adds to the story, try it. You know, and so we talk a lot about creating with intention, with the purpose of evoking some sort of emotion, whether it be happiness, sadness, joy, and then conveying that story. And part of that has to do with the execution. And so I would love to know, as a judge, when you're looking at videos, what are sort of the things that you're looking for that would give you a reaction to a visual art? Yeah, what would that look like for you?
I think the thing for me is that technology has come so far and our gear has gotten so good. And so the quality of birth films has gotten better and clearer and neater. And it's all like it's this element of perfection and crispness that comes in, which is absolutely beautiful in itself. And I've always felt this also whilst judging Birth Photographer of the Year, which I have multiple times, is that the photos got, you know, people started using flash a lot more and things got crisper and clearer. And even with that, to me, the shots that land with me and the videos that land with me are the ones that make me feel like I'm in a birth room. So often when things are really crisp and clear, and I'm like, ooh, that it feels like almost juxtaposed of the sense in the room. And so that's one thing that I love, is something that can bring the feeling of the room out through the video. In saying that, I'm just saying it doesn't need your quality. It's not about having the most beautiful camera. It's not about having the best lighting and the clearest. You know, birth is dark. Birth can be murky. Birth can be, you know, all of those things are imperfect. And so I think embracing those elements rather than fighting against them is a very valid choice. I don't want people to feel pressured into making a cinema screen quality, you know, blockbuster, shiny product. It's not about that. And I think that, photos as well, it's the element of that, that dark grainy corner that a woman has tucked herself into. And if you can feel that for me that's what hits me in the gut. And also, birth videos. I love that there are so many birth videos out in the world now. We can binge on beautiful birth videos all the time. And in saying that, there does become a bit of an algorithm, or a process that becomes kind of the norm. And we're all guilty or capable of this, of emulating other people's work and admiring other people's work and copying it. And so things can start to look quite the same. The process and the linearness of things can start to look very similar. And so for me, it takes a lot actually for me to stop and watch a birth film now. If I'm scrolling Instagram or whatever, there's very few birth films that I stop and watch. And it's like it needs an immediate sense of difference, of something that I go, oh, I haven't seen this before. What is this? That's what draws me in. So, I do think it is, like you say, doing some weird things, trying things out, just giving it something different, because there is so much. We are saturated a little bit now with stunning birth films and great. I love that, but it's the difference that excites me.
Yeah. And kind of going on with that, it's almost like a monotonous, a monotonity. Look at me making up words today. I'm in rare form. But this sort of monotonity of, like you said, the linearness of birth. Yeah. I am on it. Linearness. And the labor, birth, postpartum. And so I am, and this is just more of a message to anyone watching this, is instead of trying to create a linear film or create a story based on time, try getting creative and creating a story based on emotion, or creating a story based on lighting, right? Like follow the light, because we're there for ages. Like there's so many different stories we can tell. We don't have to tell the story of birth per se, but we can tell the story of two lovers that just so happen to have a baby. We could tell the story of a sibling who goes from the only child to now the older sibling, and what that would look like. And the way you compose that on a timeline is going to be very different. And it may not be linear. You might have crowning before and then labor after, but it's still going to make sense because the story isn't about the birth. The story is about something completely different. And that's one of the things that I really am excited about, inspiring people who are submitting into Birth Videographer of the Year. And it will take time. And, like we might not submit things in the very first go and it's amazing. It might be amazing, but I just want people to have the courage to create something and be okay with wherever it lands. And then taking that feedback from the judges and being like, oh, okay, so I had this idea. It didn't quite land the way I thought it did. But if I take what they said and then implement it, okay, now next year we can take those concepts and apply it to a new birth film until we completely change what the face of birth films look like. That's what makes me really excited, not just with video, but photography as well.
And I think one of the things that might help with that is taking yourself out of the constraints of a paying client. Because I think often it's probably very often the case that our clients maybe do want what they see on Instagram. They want that linear film. And certainly I think for some women, piecing their labors back together piece by piece, that can be the value of a birth film, in that it it kind of helps them make sense of what happened and see what happened. So maybe it's an element of you make that linear film for the client if that's what they want, and then you throw your shackles off, and then you can really, then you don't have the pressure of that being the product for them.
Yeah.
This is for you to play. You take that limitation off yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I've found in the past. I've offered births for free for women because I wanted, years ago, the first time I wanted to create a black and white birth film. And I was like, okay, I need to just do this for me. I don't want the expectation of anyone else, because I need to be able to play here.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because I talk about this in photography all the time. And that is what we deliver to clients, like, or this is true. Excuse me, this is true for me, but what I deliver to clients is not what I submit into photography awards. And I think we can get really emotionally attached to the work that we've created, and it can cause some being disheartened in the end. And so I think that if we can kind of remove ourselves from the emotional equation, and that we're just creating art, and that it's either going to do what it was set out to do, which is evoke an emotion, or it will not. And if it does, fantastic. And if not, then it's okay, because we can walk away with something that we didn't know before. And knowledge is power, right? And so that just means that we can walk away from that and then apply that to our next project. And the purpose is to incite growth. And so I don't want people to get disheartened if something doesn't go the way they plan. And this brings us full circle, right? Of me being attached to the idea of what a birth film should look like. And then just getting in a creative slump and not creating, because what if it's not what I envisioned it to be? And that's because I'm involved in that emotional equation, and it stops me. I'm speaking for myself. And I know if I feel this way, that I'm sure someone else does as well. But then that stops me from creating, because I'm now emotionally tied to it. So when we're creating films for the clients, like you said, the majority of our clients are likely expecting a linear birth. But when we're creating for ourselves, it brings a little bit more freedom of how we can create and present that out. And we can do that through the awards process. That makes me really excited. And so I'm always reminding judges, like, hey, you might see some weird things. It's okay. It's okay. This is where it should be put.
Yeah, right. This is it. That's what excites me.
Yeah. Jerusha, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me this morning and chatting all things birth. I can't wait to have you on the panel, and I can't wait to learn. I can't wait to learn from you as well.
I can't wait to learn from everyone else. That's the exciting thing, right? I love
That's so true,
absorbing
isn't it?
a variety of things. We all learn from each other.
We do. We do.
Love, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.